Hello humans! Today we are going to create a 3D rendering of an architectural project using Blender. This is Artificial Marvin and you're watching The Surface. I'd like to realize a short footage to show some nice details of this guest house. I was thinking about adding a more cinematic and moody look, instead of a usual architectural render. So, first of all, let's import the cut file into Blender, to have a very precise measure of this model. To create the base structure, I'm extruding all the volumes and closing all the surface, making up all imperfection. The most important thing for having a good render is to create a credible illumination. Once you have it, you're halfway in. So, let's set the camera and try some global light setup. In order to have a good approximation of the volumes in this room, I set some cubes as placeholders of the upcoming assets, using just basic materials. The light bulbs are pretty simple to make. They are just spheres. The only thing that takes effort is the screw base. So let's simplify this shape instead of modeling it. There's no point in reproducing this detail accurately, because it isn't shown anywhere in this render. For the materials, I use just basic shaders, nothing complicated. Then let's create all the other components, such as the base and the wires. The lampshade seems to be a little bit challenging, but after thinking about it a little bit, I found a good solution. In fact, this structure is all about some hexagons with different rotation angles. The kitchen instead is quite complex to do all in one shot, but subdividing it in small chunks, it could be fairly easy to reproduce. About the texture, this time I decided to avoid UV mapping. So to make this material, I used a more parametric approach, using the node editor and the parametric textures in Blender. The stove is just a cube. As I said before, there is no need to be super detailed in this case, because the final product does not require too much close-ups. And the material was also a piece of cake. I just placed the reference photo with the glossy shaders to do it. Done! The handles are quite simple to make. It's all about playing with some modifiers to get the right shape. The sink requires just some extrusion and some boolean operation. It was indeed quite hard to get right the side holes for the sink drain. The boolean modifiers created a lot of glitch in the mesh. To get this done in a simple way, I tried just to increase the resolution around these holes to minimize the glitch. to start playing with some physics simulation. The base for the creation of the curtains was not complicated at all. It's just a plane with some holes on the top. Most of the work is done by running the cloth simulation and playing with the parameters to get the right behavior. The small table shouldn't be a big thing. It has a simple and linear geometry. It should be done with a couple of Bezier curves. In order to add some more realism to the scene, I decided to create a small balcony in a very low resolution to project some more shadows into the room. Now let's move on to something more complex. We can model the sofa using a lot of techniques, using physics, sculpting it manually, or simply editing it in a usual way. First thing first, I decided to start creating the base geometry with the usual approach, shaping the sitting, the back and the armrest. Then we can add some more details using the sculpting tools. The chair has a fairly linear shape and it could be done using a couple of curves. The tabletop is easy. A plane with the thickness has some bevel. The legs have a more convoluted form. Anyway, with some work and thanks to the help of the curves, they weren't such a big deal. For the wood material, I tried to use only a texture, but it didn't convince me. So I added some details with the procedural textures, and it came out pretty fine. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button. I will appreciate it.